Imagine getting invited to a wedding where half the guests never make it home alive. In 1396, a royal wedding turned into the deadliest party in medieval history. Today, we're diving into the blood-soaked celebration that shocked all of Europe. Let's get started. This wasn't just any wedding. It was meant to unite two powerful kingdoms. King Sigismund of Hungary married Mary of Bosnia in a grand ceremony. Nobles from across Europe traveled weeks to attend this historic event. But here's the thing. Politics in medieval times was brutal and unforgiving. Every wedding was also a chess match for power. Enemies had to smile and shake hands at these events. Imagine inviting people who want to kill you to your wedding. The guest list read like a war roster. Rival lords who had fought bloody battles sat at the same tables. Croatian nobles mixed with Hungarian aristocrats who hated them. Turkish ambassadors watched Christian knights with suspicious eyes. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Security was almost non-existent by today's standards. Guards carried weapons, but so did most of the guests. Knights never took off their swords, even during the feast. Picture a modern wedding where everyone brings loaded guns to the reception. That's basically what this was like. The castle halls were packed with armed men drinking heavily. Alcohol flowed freely, loosening tongues and stirring old grudges. Ancient insults were remembered after the third cup of wine. Feuds that had been quiet for years suddenly bubbled to the surface. Mary of Bosnia was caught in the middle of it all. She was just a teenager, probably terrified of her future. Her wedding day was supposed to be joyful and memorable. Instead, it became a nightmare she would never forget. Do you think you could stay calm at a party this dangerous? The wedding feast started pleasantly enough with music and dancing. Servants brought out roasted meats and fine wines for hundreds of guests. The celebration seemed like it might actually succeed without incident. Then one drunk noble made a terrible mistake. A Croatian lord insulted a Hungarian count across the dinner table. Words were exchanged, voices were raised, and hands went to sword hilts. Within seconds, the entire hall erupted into violent chaos. Blades flashed under the candlelight as men began fighting furiously. Think about the worst argument you've ever seen at a family dinner. Now multiply that by 1,000 and add deadly weapons. That's what happened in this medieval banquet hall that night. The bride screamed as blood splattered across her white wedding dress. King Sigismund tried desperately to restore order, but nobody listened. His own guards were too busy defending themselves from the madness. Tables were overturned, sending food and dishes crashing to the floor. The fighting spread from room to room like wildfire through the castle. Servants ran for their lives, abandoning their posts in terror. Women and children huddled in corners, praying they wouldn't get hurt. Outside in the courtyard, more fighting broke out among the soldiers. Dozens of nobles died right there at the wedding celebration. Their bodies lay scattered among the broken plates and spilled wine. The stone floors were slick with blood by the time dawn came. This was no longer a wedding, it was a massacre. The violence lasted for hours before exhaustion finally stopped the fighting. Survivors stumbled out into the cold night air, traumatized and bleeding. Many guests fled the castle immediately, fearing another attack might come. The celebration that was supposed to unite kingdoms had torn them apart. Would you have tried to stop the fight or run away? The killing didn't end when the wedding was over, unfortunately. Lords who survived went home and declared war on each other. What started at a dinner table became battles across entire regions. Thousands more people died in the wars that followed this disaster. King Sigismund's reputation was destroyed by what happened that night. People blamed him for not controlling his guests properly and safely. His authority weakened, and rebellions broke out across his struggling kingdom. The wedding that should have strengthened him had made him vulnerable instead. Imagine throwing a party that accidentally starts a war between countries. That's essentially what happened here, except people really did die. The consequences spread far beyond that one terrible night in 1396. Other kingdoms heard about the massacre and changed their own practices. Some rulers banned weapons at royal celebrations after hearing this story. Security at weddings became much tighter across Europe for decades. Fear replaced the old traditions of hospitality and open celebration completely. The families who lost loved ones never forgave or forgot. Blood feuds lasted for generations after that single violent night. Children grew up hearing stories about how their grandfathers died there. The cycle of revenge continued for over 100 years afterward. Mary of Bosnia's life was ruined before it really even started. Her marriage was forever associated with death and terrible destruction. She never escaped the shadow of that blood-soaked wedding day. History remembers her as the bride at the deadliest party ever. The castle where it happened gained a dark reputation immediately. People said it was cursed and haunted by angry ghosts. Nobody wanted to hold celebrations there anymore after what had occurred. Eventually, parts of it were torn down to erase the memory. Could you forgive someone if they ruined your wedding this badly? This medieval disaster teaches us important lessons about conflict and resolution. Forcing enemies together without addressing their problems never works well. Peace requires more than just putting people in the same room. Real reconciliation takes time, effort, and genuine willingness from both sides. Modern diplomacy has learned from tragedies like this one over the centuries. Today's peace summits have strict rules and heavy security for protection. Mediators work carefully to prevent tensions from exploding into violence. We understand now that rushing peace can create worse problems. Think about times when you were forced to get along with someone. Maybe a school project with someone you didn't like at all. If the underlying problems aren't fixed, cooperation always fails eventually. The medieval wedding showed this truth in the most dramatic way possible. The story also reminds us that alcohol and weapons are dangerous together. Medieval nobles drank heavily while carrying swords everywhere they went, constantly. This combination turned a small argument into a catastrophic bloodbath. Even today, we keep weapons away from places where drinking happens. Pride and honor killed more people than any disease in medieval times. A simple insult could escalate to murder in just mere seconds. Men would rather die than appear weak in front of others. This toxic culture made every gathering potentially deadly for all involved. Communication could have prevented the entire disaster from ever happening at all. If the Croatian lord had apologized immediately, lives would have been saved. Instead, pride and anger took over, leading to unthinkable tragedy. Sometimes the bravest thing is to back down and walk away calmly. The wedding reminds us that violence solves absolutely nothing in the end. Everyone lost something that night. Winners and losers alike suffered greatly. The problems that caused the fight still existed the next day. All those deaths accomplished nothing but more pain and suffering unnecessarily. What would you have done differently to prevent this tragedy? So there you have it, the deadliest wedding in medieval history. A political trap, a feast-turned-battlefield, devastating aftermath and lasting lessons. One celebration in 1396 changed European history forever through terrible violence. The bride's special day became a horror story that people still remember. Violence, pride, and poor planning created an unforgettable disaster. If you found this story fascinating, hit that like button now. Drop a comment telling me what medieval topic you want next. And subscribe so you never miss another incredible history video.